Now, Republican lawmakers in Iowa are pushing a bill that would freeze the minimum wage to the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Now, what it would also do is it would strip local counties and cities of the ability to set their own minimum wages. Now, this is another one of the preempt laws, as they're called. Now, basically, they're passed statewide in order to prevent cities and local counties from passing minimum wage increases in their jurisdictions, as well as doing other things. Now, what is this based off of? Well, back in October of 2016, the Polk County Board of Supervisors had voted 4-0 to increase the minimum wage. After several rounds of increases, it would reach $10.75 by 2019, with further increases adjusted for inflation. Hey, that sounds great. People in Polk County, you got a raise. That's awesome. That helps the economy. But wait, it turns out, nope. You might not be getting it after all. Now, county officials had said that they did this because, look, most people want to raise the minimum wage. It's popular among Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. So we all want to raise the wage. We think $7.25 is a poverty wage, to borrow a phrase from Bernie Sanders. So let's raise it. Let's tie it to inflation so we make sure people who are working for a living don't have to still live in poverty. Now, of course, these cities, since the Republicans in office are bought by giant corporations, mainly the fast food industry, well, they said, no, we're not going to do anything about it. And now, since you're trying to do something about it, we're going to stop you. Now, this is the new bill is called House Study Bill 92. And what it would do is that it would immediately roll back the minimum wage increases approved in Polk, Johnson, Wapello, and Linn counties in Iowa. Now, the bill, other than just saying you can't do this, you can't raise the minimum wage for your workers, it also restricts the power of local governments to set their own labor regulations, create civil rights protections for example, LGBT folks, and institutes bans on the use of plastic bags. So you can't ban plastic bags. It says, nope, you don't have the power to do that in your local municipality. Sorry, can't ban the plastic bags. Isn't that crazy? That's kind of an insane thing to do, to legislate. By the way, can't do a plastic bag ban. What if our citizens want to do a plastic bag ban? Can't do it. Can't do it. Not allowed. One of the representatives that introduced this bill is named Jake Highfill, who's a Republican. Now, he says he rejects the idea that his bill takes away power from counties and cities, arguing that, hey, they never had this power to begin with. His bill, he says, merely formalizes what state law always intended. Local governments have no authority to legislate on labor issues such as the minimum wage. Well, that's crazy. That's actually taking away local control of your city. And there are a lot of cities across the United States who actually do have this power to change their city minimum wage. Seattle did it. Seattle raised their wage to $15 an hour. You don't see Washington going and saying, nope, can't do that. At least not yet. Now, basically what it means is that, look, we like local control, unless you try to do things we don't like. You try to ban the plastic bags, can't do it. Try to raise the minimum wage, can't do it. But we like small government. Remember, Jake Highfill is a Republican. It's hypocrisy. Look, this is state government essentially stealing control and power from the local government. It's ironically the same thing that the Republicans always complain that the federal government's doing. Well, what about states' rights? Well, what about cities' rights? What about the government that is the most local, that is the closest to you, happens to be the best? What about that? No, all those principles out the window. Gone. Just because you want to raise the minimum wage. I mean, again, what's wrong with the city passing a higher minimum wage? If that's what they want to do, if most people are in favor of it, we should have democracy. Oh, right. Because if they do that in a city and people realize, holy shit, this actually works, well, they might want to pass it in their areas. And then, of course, the businesses who do business there, well, they don't like that because they actually might have to make a little less in profit. And, of course, when businesses make less profit, they can't afford to buy politicians as much, which right now they can. And so, again, that's why they're doing this. Now, to be fair, there are Republicans in Iowa that are kind of pissed off at this bill. Now, for one of them is Cedar Rapids Mayor Ron Corbett. Now, he said, quote, "It may be a Republican bill, but it is not a conservative bill. Conservatives believe in local control, and local government is the closest government to the people. Iowa communities are not monoliths," Corbett said. "Cedar Rapids has a different need than Sioux City, and each community should be allowed to govern locally." Now, he also said, quote, "We just had this anti-Washington wave spreading across the country of people rejecting top-down government. That wave didn't mean we now want Des Moines to tell everyone what needs to be done." So, look, I don't agree with the guy on a lot of points. He is a very conservative person, but you got to give him points for at least being consistently a consistent, principled conservative. I said I don't like big government. I don't like big government in Washington, and I sure as fuck don't like big government in Des Moines. Get out of our city. Get out of our lives. Hey, I don't agree with you on a lot of issues, but there you go. Principled conservative. I can at least respect that. And on this one, I actually agree. If he wants to pass a minimum wage increase in his city, he shouldn't have the state government coming in and saying, nope, can't do that. Because that's bullshit. Now, again, I alluded to earlier corporate influence, right? Politicians getting bought by giant companies that don't want to see people get a higher minimum wage. Well, you have lobbyists here that lobby on this bill for the Iowa Association of Business Industry and the Iowa Restaurant Association. Now, they, of course, support the bill saying that that all the cities and municipalities, local areas cannot do these labor protections or raise their minimum wage. And they say it's because, quote, "We like a uniform wage across the state." Uniform wage. Now, I don't think so much they like it because it's uniform, but because it's uniformly low. I mean, look, if they pass this bill, and some have even floated, hey, let's do an amendment where we, jack the rate, that we raise the wage up to $8.25 an hour to try to get it through, to try to appease the Democrats. Well, that's still going to hurt workers in the places where they've actually raised it higher. There's a city, I forget which one, I believe it was Polk County actually, that raised their intends to raise their wage to $10.25. So no, we're gonna just give you one state minimum wage, $8.25. So you people who had $10, no, you're gonna lose a couple of dollars. But we like it uniform. No, it's a way to make it low all across the state in places where it's actually higher. So you're gonna end up hurting people. So the corporations, they still win. Local jurisdictions, they lose. And look, we've seen this all over Ohio, Idaho. In fact, 16 other states have also passed similar legislation. And actually, this legislation, these preempt laws, well, they're coming from somewhere. They're ALEC bills, the American Legislative Exchange Council. Basically, they go and they create model bills that are anti-worker, that are anti-union, anti-environment, and they just hand them out to different lawmakers who copy them pretty much word for word, put their name on it, and then try to send it through. And that's what's going on here. Now, there's some good news, at least right now. The bill hasn't gone through yet. However, it is a Republican legislature, and the governor, Terry Branstad, has yet to comment on whether or not he'll sign it into law. So, I don't know. Iowa might end up becoming the 19th state to essentially usurp democracy and local control from the people in favor of a top-down, big government approach. And an approach that is dictated by people who don't want you to have a higher minimum wage. Now, if I were you guys that were sitting in Iowa, if I have any Iowa viewers right now, flood the state house with cause, man. Call them, make their phone ring off the hook. Do protests, do demonstrations, peaceful protests, of course. Let the politicians know that you were watching them. They're on notice. If they try to usurp democracy, let them know that you are not going to abide by that, that you are not going to stand by and watch them transfer local control from your city that wants you to that voted to have you have a higher minimum wage to Des Moines that wants to make you have a lower minimum wage. You protest, you demonstrate, you call them. Maybe that might be enough to change their mind. That might be enough to get out that message. And maybe you might actually win. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.